What's up, everybody? My name is Justin. Welcome back to Whiskey Tears, and today we have a very special episode. My good friend Chris is here today, and today we are trying Jack Daniel's Sinatra Select. Okay, so me and my buddy Chris were out drinking tonight. We came back. He saw this bottle of Jack Daniel's Sinatra Select. He said, "Justin, I would like to drink some of that." And I said, "Well, sir, I haven't opened it yet, so if you want to drink some of this, you're going to have to be here on the Whiskey Tears channel." So, you know what we're going to do. Normally, I do this both neat with a dash of water and on the rocks, but today, since it's both Chris and I, we're just going to do it neat. We're going to let you know what we smell and taste and what we think about it here on the Jack Daniel's Sinatra Select. If you haven't looked it up, there's a whole big box. It's got all kinds of crap about Sinatra, and got a whole book about the whole story about how it's made. And the particular thing about this whiskey is that the barrel has a bunch of extra grooves cut throughout it, which is supposedly supposed to let the whiskey infuse into the wood in a lot more places over the years, so that you get a new and fresh taste rather than the regular Jack Daniel's. So we're going to try the Jack Daniel's Sinatra Select today, see how it smells, see how it tastes. We're going to let you know. Chris is going to be the real critique today. We'll see if he can actually smell any flavors or if he just smells whiskey. Let's go. All right, let's do the bottle pop. Give each of us a nice pour here. Give myself a little bigger pour because I am not a whiskey bitch like this one over here. All right, give him a smaller pour. It's okay. We can't all be pros. All right, so first things first, the box, the bottle, the packaging, just an absolute A+. Looks amazing. This bottle itself looks amazing. The label is a lot better than just the regular Jack Daniel's label, and the bottle shape itself is just glorious. So personally, I think they could not have done much better on the packaging and bottling of the Jack Daniel's Sinatra Select. All right, Chris, what do you think you're getting on the color here of this Tennessee whiskey?
It feels, it's almost like it's a little bit lighter than normal Jack Daniel's.
Maybe he knows what he's talking about. He knows what he's talking about, folks. It is a little bit lighter on the color than at least a regular bourbon. I don't know about a regular Jack Daniel's, but it's definitely lighter than a regular bourbon. It's much more yellowy, much more yellow color in almost that like amber honey. There. Almost like a honey. Yes, exactly. So, you know, it's filtered through the charcoal, as all Jack Daniel's things are. So we're going to get into the smell. Chris, let us know what you smell here.
Almost like creamy, like vanilla almost.
Okay, creamy vanilla.
A little bit sweet.
What kind of sweetness are you smelling in there? Is there any particular notes that you think makes it sweet?
I don't know. I can't really put my finger on it.
All right, give it a little ADHD whiskey swirl job. Swirl that beast around in there. Look at the legs. Look how it clings onto the glass. Beautiful Whiskey Tears Glencairn glasses as always. It's definitely got the vanilla. I know what sweetness you are talking about. Can you pinpoint what that sweetness is? Because I know exactly what it is when it comes to my nose. But whiskey smelling, whiskey tasting is very personalized experience, because what it does is it triggers the brain to remind you of things that you have tasted and smelled in the past. So it may be different, each individual whiskey for each individual person, but for me, I know exactly what it smells like.
Like a grape?
A grape? Okay, let me see if I get any grape here. I could get a red grape out of this, like a purple red grape, not the green grape.
Maybe that's the sweetness that
For me, I get vanilla and cherry. Very classic bourbon whiskey smells. I get vanilla and cherry.
Now that you say cherry, yeah.
And then those are the two, and I'm sure if you're watching this channel, you know, those are the two most classic whiskey bourbon smells you can get is vanilla and cherry. It smells very smooth. It doesn't smell over proofy, over alcohol. What is the proof on this, by the way? 90 proof, so very low proof. Easy drinker here with the Sinatra Select. It's not one of the 120s, 130s that we got up here. It's 90 proof, so very low. All right, let me see if I get anything else before we try it here. I get just a hint of spiced apple on the end. Up front, very vanilla, very cherry, and on the very back end, it's like a spiced apple, like the cinnamon apple oatmeal almost that you would get on a breakfast. That's kind of what I'm smelling on the end.
It's interesting because whenever I've tasted alcohols before, I've never really paid attention to.
Open
I've never really paid attention to how much more in depth you could go just by
opening
smelling
your
it.
mind, and we're trying a very classic one today. Later on, after we close this video off, I'm going to have him try a few more of these, and we'll see what he thinks of those. But all right, let's down the hatch. Cheers, sir. Let's see what you think of the Jack Daniel's Sinatra Select. What are you getting, Chris? Are you getting anything right off the bat? Off the bat?
I also have tasted this before, and I am trying to take myself back to that first instance, but to me, this is not a similar taste than I had
So
last
if
time.
those of you don't know, and you don't, what his first instance was, it was basically this.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a lot different than
Pretty
just tasting it
Yeah,
and
then
getting the
actually,
flavors
yeah,
out of it.
examining it, if you will.
I've got a flavor in mind now after that sip. You have anything yet? Because I don't want to tell you my flavors and influence you. I want you to kind of give me what you're getting before I go into it. And don't worry about being slow. I can edit this.
I'm still kind of trying to take myself back in memory too.
Well, don't even worry about what it used to be. What are you tasting right now?
Yeah, I can't.
You got nothing?
I can't.
Okay, well, what kind of, if you can't pick out the specific flavor, what kind of profiles are in there? Is it smoky? Is it sweet?
It's definitely got some smokiness to it,
Okay.
in my opinion. But again, I'm not a connoisseur like my friend here. I think it's got the typical burn from Jack Daniel's, that kind of back of the throat.
This is a guy that doesn't drink whiskey a lot now, folks.
That's a valid point.
We'll see what he thinks about the typical burn once we get into the 120s.
Definitely, I would definitely say it's got some like charred wood almost, like
Okay, good.
campfire kind of.
Yeah, that's what I get towards the end.
Yeah,
That's what I get on the lingering aftertaste, the finish, if you will. That's what I kind of get as a very light. It's not even like a heavy one for me. It's a very light, like charred, smoky. Like if you had a campfire and it wasn't actively burning, but it was like at the end of the night when it was just down
kind
to
of
the
smoldering,
embers.
yeah.
Yeah, it was just smoldering. That's kind of what I'm getting here on the finish.
I can't quite put my finger on it, but I think more towards the end of it, like just before the burn, is when I get that smokiness.
Okay. What about up front? Do you get anything up front?
I still can't quite pinpoint.
Here's what I want you to do. I want you to put it in your mouth and just hold it there for a second before you swallow it.
Okay, did you roofie me?
What I want you to do is just hold it in your mouth for a minute. See if you can get any flavor. Really? We couldn't even get through that. All right, what I want you to do is this time when you put it in your mouth. You good?
Yes.
All right, here's what I want you to do. This time, when you take a sip, I just want you to pause and reflect on the flavors that you're tasting for a second before you swallow it. Okay? And then let me know what you're getting initially.
When you just take a like just a smaller sip and you just kind of hold it on the end of your tongue, like it is a little bit sweeter,
Yeah.
and then you get that smokiness towards the end. Yeah.
All right, so he's getting that sweetness up front. And for me, the thing that was throwing me off is it's sweetness, but it's sweetness on top of another flavor. And so the flavors that I'm getting is like a sourdough bread covered in honey. If you were to take a piece of sourdough bread covered in honey, take a bite, that's the flavors that I'm getting out of this right now.
And that'll be our next review.
Go ahead, take another sip, see if that resonates with you at all. Okay, well, what would you describe the sweet flavor as then? Can you pinpoint anything? So in most of your bourbons and your whiskeys, it's going to be cherries or dark fruits, say a strawberry, raspberry.
Have you ever had an overcooked sugar cookie?
An overcooked sugar cookie?
Yeah.
So that's what you're getting out of this?
Yeah.
So like a burnt sugar cookie?
A little burnt.
So if you had a sugar cookie but it was burnt, so you get that initial
Yeah.
That initial sweet flavor, but
Like
then
the
it transitions into the
aftertaste
smoke.
of a burnt sugar cookie.
Okay.
Like that's like almost the.
No,
It's kind of odd, but
and you say
scenario.
you're not a whiskey connoisseur. This is the kind of obscure flavors that you
But
pick
I've
out when
never
you're a
gone
whiskey
into depth
connoisseur.
like this before, as far as like really getting down and examining it before. So it's interesting.
Yeah, for me, it's bread, a sourdough, maybe a rye bread, just a slight bit of rye bread, but I know it's not rye, so it kind of tastes like a sourdough bread if you coat it in honey, took a bite, and just let it sit in your mouth for a little bit, and then it does get into that little bit of smokiness on the back end, which I agree with Chris on 100%. But yeah, so for 90 proof, so for me, it's not too hot going down the throat. I don't really feel it at all going down my throat, just a slight tinge, but it's only 90 proof. That's not what it's made for. It's made for more of that easy sipper, that classic. I mean, Sinatra. That's what he's known for, the classics, right? So that's really what this bottle is made for. So, all right, here's what we do, Chris. He hasn't really seen any of my videos yet because we're a new channel here. So on Whiskey Tiers, we rank everything on a tier system. So top tier is S, then it goes A, B, C, D, F, and from there. So Chris, where do you think on that kind of tier list, S being the very best, and then A through F below that, where would you rank this one?
I'm gonna have to go kind of middle tier. I'm gonna say F. A F. A.
So this is definitely going to make the video because he said middle tier and then he said F, which is the very lowest tier.
I thought we were going safe.
S
S-A-F-E-E.
No.
S-A-F-E.
No.
S-A-F-E.
See what
this shit does?
It starts with S. A, B, C, D, F.
Oh shit! I thought we were spelling it safe. So I'm probably gonna go with a B.
A B.
Now that I understand this tiering system better.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I would agree. For me, I think if it was higher proof, if it was a bit more than that 90, and the finish isn't too long, it doesn't linger in your mouth too long, it doesn't give you too much of the burn going down the throat, and it's not overly complex for me. It was initially, I had a problem putting my tongue on just exactly what that flavor note was, but once I got it, there wasn't a bunch of other flavor notes that I had to go in and then pick out with it as well. It was pretty much the same thing that I got every time. So I think I'm going to agree with Chris, and I'm going to go with a B tier here on the Jack Daniel's Sinatra Select. For me, this bottle was $170. You can generally find it anywhere between $150 and $250 depending on where you live. So
I'm not typically a whiskey drinker.
We're going to change that, by the way.
I am more of a just grab a beer, hang out kind of guy. Now, when I come over here, I am tempted by this all the time to taste new things. And now that I have learned a little bit more about examining and kind of seeing what I can tell from the tastes and smells and just from different sips, I mean, it'll make a whiskey connoisseur, sure.
Whiskey sommelier, one might say. So, Jack Daniel's Sinatra Select, it's official. Between Chris and I, it is going on the B tier of whiskey tiers. I thank you guys so much for joining us on this. Thank you, Chris, for being here. If you haven't yet, make sure you hit like and subscribe. Check us out on Patreon if you want to vote on future bottles that you want to see reviewed here on the channel, and if you want to have special content there just for you Patreon members. I appreciate you. I'll see you guys later.